On March 19th, 1994, two men walked into the church of San Nicola di Bari in Naples, approached the priest preparing for Mass, and shot him twice in the head. Despite obvious contradictions, many mafia men consider themselves devout Christians. Saints and religious iconography are revered and even given credit for the good fortune of a criminal endeavor. Faith eases the conscience and provides a twisted sense of comfort by putting fate in the hands of a higher power. And so, one might think this provides men of the cloth with protection. And to some extent it does. The organization must think up compelling reasons to justify the killing of a priest in order to maintain the pretense of a God-approved murdering enterprise. But the reality is, a priest who causes trouble will be dealt with just like any other problem. Don Peppino Diana was a young man who chose to run the church in his home of Casal di Principe, the stronghold of Camorra power. While many of his colleagues focused their energy on the day-to-day problems of their parish, Don Peppino wanted to do more. He knew that providing Mass and comforting widows, while valuable, was like trying to treat a gaping wound with a band-aid. Instead, he focused his efforts on the root of the problem, that being the systems that created and nurtured the Camorra. He understood that even members of the Camorra are victims of it. Joining a clan is not an evil choice, but rather the natural course given the current conditions. What can one person do when facing institutionalized evil? That is, corruption that cuts so deep, it's easier to run with it than fight against the current. Don Peppino used the two weapons he had. One was his voice. In Casal di Principe, free speech is a rare thing. The Camorra were rooted in its industry. They provided jobs, kept businesses running, held sway over politics. They had achieved quiet power, the kind so pervasive that it no longer seems out of place. Speaking out about this reminded people of their reality. Instead of providing comfort to his community, Don Peppino tried to jolt them awake. The other weapon was his priesthood. He refused to legitimize the clan's hypocritical Christianity with sacraments. This meant no more fathers present for baptisms, no marriages used to seal alliances, no more Camorra godfathers. This was a direct affront to their sensibilities. Denouncing them was one thing, but with this, Don Peppino denied them the fantasy that their actions were compatible with religious doctrine. And so he became a major thorn for the Camorra. Nothing so serious that it required an immediate response, but enough of a pain that they held onto it, waited to treat it at the most opportune time. The specific reason for his murder was never made clear, but it is believed that his death was used to seal peace between two warring clans. It served as catharsis, the removal of a nuisance so that the clans could breathe easier and find common ground. You may think Don Peppino's death sealed him as a martyr, sparking real backlash against the clans. The truth is that death by Camorra only taints your name. It's easier to believe there must have been some seedy tie between the victim and the clans. The Camorra do their part to fuel this belief. During the hearings, the conspirators threw out all kinds of accusations, from Don Peppino buying weapons from the clans to frequenting their brothels, and the local papers took advantage of these easy headlines. Thankfully, this is a rare case where the victim's reputation was strong enough to endure. Don Peppino is remembered as a stalwart defender of his community and was frequently referenced favorably by Pope Francis. He has also been cited as a source of inspiration by Roberto Saviano, the writer of the Gomorrah nonfiction novel, which served as the inspiration for the series. One of the show's most iconic scenes is undoubtedly referencing Don Peppino. Even the name of the book came from a sermon by Don Peppino where he described his Camorra-controlled home as a modern-day Gomorrah. And while I do want to honor the father with this video, that is not the primary goal here. Don Peppino met a bleak end, but the way these stories unfold, the narrative conditions us to revere the martyr and see some triumph in their death. And while there are benefits to this optimism, it can also create a glorified image of heroism. In reality, many who stand up for a righteous cause are left broken and forgotten. In the same chapter that Saviano retells Don Peppino's exploits, he also shares the story of Antonio Cangiano, a politician who resisted Camorra infiltration, was shot publicly in the back, crippled for life, and his attackers were acquitted of all charges. Part of what enamored Saviano, an avowed atheist, with the message of his local priest, was his familiarity with hopelessness. Don Peppino had very little to fight back against Camorra control. You can stand tall and make speeches, but in the day-to-day misery of violent conditions, there's little reason to believe it will amount to much. And that is the core struggle when fighting a system. It's exhilarating to fantasize about jamming a wrench into the gears and watching it all fall apart, but the reality is more like throwing sand at it and hoping it slows things down a little. You have to live with the uncertainty that your efforts make any kind of difference. Don Peppino understood this, but his is just one name fortunate enough to be remembered. There are countless others buried in time. It's important to keep this in mind, not because it's discouraging, rather the opposite. It's easier, knowing that the product of effort is often intangible. We don't need heroes, we need united communities. Look at things holistically, speak out about them, try to shake things up. And when it feels futile, remember that it might be, but also it might not. We can't know, and that's the struggle.